Welcome to my first in a series of videos on the Vagabond role-playing game by Land of the Blind LLC and lead designer Taryn Indestructiboy Pounds. In this one, I'm going to cover a simple breakdown of hero creation and advancement. In future videos, I will break down other specifics, but I thought the best place to start is where you as a player start making your hero. I will be releasing a tutorial video on the core mechanics of Vagabonds sometime after this one, so that they can be paired together for groups new to the system. So keep your eye holes open for that video to drop soon as well. What we'll do for this video is go step by step through hero creation as suggested in the very beginning of the hero creation chapter. Step 1. Ancestry. There are numerous ancestries for Vagabond, with what appears to be possibly more on the horizon. You can simply choose an ancestry of your choice, or if you can't decide, you could roll 1d6 on the table that appears in the hero creation steps at the beginning of chapter 6. This roll will likely result in a human, but can also be a dwarf, elf, or halfling. In the ancestries chapter, you have a much longer list, like human, dwarf, multiple types of elves, halfling, draken, changeling, fiends, goblins, multiple types of kindled, which are elemental-touched people, and a bunch of different beast folk. Ancestries in Vagabond are very simple. There's 1 or 2 paragraphs of flavor text to tell you about them, what creature type it is, its size category, and finally the traits you automatically get. For example, the draken describe what they are, tell you that they're a cryptid, that is medium in size, and that you get these 2 traits, scaled and dragon's breath. That's all you really need to worry about for your ancestry. Step 2. Your class. When creating a character, you get your first level in your chosen class. With the main book, you can choose between alchemist, barbarian, bard, dancer, druid, fighter, gunslinger, hunter, luminary, magus, merchant, pugilist, revelator, rogue, sorcerer, vanguard, witch, and wizard. Whew, quite the list. Showing fighter as an example class, you can see they're relatively simple, starting you with your play breakdown. This shows you what your common offensive action is, where you'll likely want to be in a conflict, what starting packs of gear you'll probably want to choose from, and how complex the character is to play. That last part can be very important if you're new to RPGs, or introducing someone to them for the first time. If that's the case, you may want to focus on 1 or 2 star classes at first. Then we get to the class dynamic, which just tells you what category of class this is, warrior, expert, or mage, and what stat you'll likely want to focus on when building your character. This is the stat that many of your abilities will key off of. Then we get into what training you get. We'll describe what that means in a moment, but this tells you what weapons, skills, and tools you have training in. Finally, we have the class features. Most classes have their features appear at first level and every even level thereafter. The descriptions of your class features can be found immediately on that or the next page. Some classes may have advanced features like spellcasting. You can find more in-depth rules on spellcasting in Chapter 11 for magic and spells. Step 3. Stats. Now that we know what kind of character you want to play, you also now want to know where to put the points for your stats. You get the numbers for your stats from the table at the very beginning of the hero creation chapter. You can either choose an array of stats or roll randomly to see which array you'll be using. Once you have an array, you'll want to place them in your might, dexterity, awareness, logic, presence, and luck. Each stat is described in detail in Chapter 6, with what specific types of checks and features they govern at the beginning of each entry. Let's briefly go over each of these to help you make a more informed decision when filling them out. Might. This is your physical body, strength, and vitality. Might directly affects what your hit die size is, as shown on the table. At level 1, your maximum health is the upper limit of that hit die. So if you have a D8, then your starting health is 8. Might can also determine how many item slots you have, as well as govern things like brawling, grappling, melee weapons, blocking, endure saves, brawn checks, and suffocation. Dexterity. This is how nimble and quick you are. Dexterity directly ties to how fast you can go with this speed table for reference. It is also used for reflex saves and finesse and sneak checks. Awareness. This is how perceptive you are and your general cognition. It's used for determining your reflex saves and checks like detect, mysticism, and survival. It's also used as part of ranged attacks. Logic. This is your intellect and reasoning capabilities. It is used for your will saves and checks like Arcana, Craft, and Medicine. Side note, thank you for making medicine an intellect-based thing. I've always hated medical type skills being wisdom or intuition. That's not how first aid in medicine works. You just don't go by your gut feeling and somehow someone feels better. That's how you get people to think essential oils can cure all your illnesses. You're not a doctor, Cheryl. $500 in peppermint essential oils won't cure granddad's ass cancer. No, you can't stop my pneumonia with a crystal peer. Presence. This is your charisma and wit. Presence is used as part of the will save and checks like influence, leadership, and performance. There's some handy little mini rules in here for things like parlay, to convince enemies to temporarily end hostilities, and command for commanding hirelings. Luck. The final stat of luck is somewhat unique compared to the others, since it doesn't govern any saves or checks on its own, but acts as a resource pool for a narrative tool that allows you to do things like add advantage, apply extra damage or healing, or even re-roll unresolved die rolls. Also, your saves. In the same area for stats are listed your saves. You do not assign any points to these directly. Your 3 primary saves are generated by a mixture of your stats. Endure is 20 minus twice your might pool. Reflex is 20 minus the total of dexterity and awareness. And will is 20 minus the total of presence and logic. Step 4. Training and Perk. This step is what helps you to really customize the character in a unique way. You start by selecting training in a skill or tool of your choice. This could represent some experience from your background or past profession. Although I didn't want to get into any core rules in this video too much, it is important to note what training does. Whenever you roll for a check in Vagabond, you roll 1d20 against the difficulty on your character sheet. That difficulty is preset, normally as 20, minus the appropriate stat for that skill or tool. If you're trained, however, the difficulty is 20 minus double that stat, which means the difficulty is much lower. I just thought this was an important part of the system to know when making your hero. Then you'll get to choose your perk from Chapter 9. Most perks have a prerequisite of some kind, whether that be a particular class archetype of expert, mage, or warrior, which as we discussed you can find in your class description, or something else. Maybe knowing a particular spell, have a particular training, requiring a certain stat, or even story-based reasons. Step 5. Gear. We then get to our final hero creation step. Purchasing gear. Each hero starts with 3 gold, which converts to 300 silver to purchase all your stuff. This allows you to mix and match different equipment, weapons, armor, and more, all as you see fit. There are also pre-made starting packs of gear that you can choose from if you aren't sure where to start. These starting packs are designed around either a particular class or a background theme of some kind, like cook, fortune teller, noble, and more. For those of you coming from a system like Dungeons & Dragons, read some of the descriptions carefully, as they may work slightly differently from what you expect, especially things like shields, which are more of an active component and not just a passive boon. Leveling up. There we have it, your character is made. You're ready to go on adventures and dive into the deadly, dastardly, doomed dungeons of demise and death. Assuming you live, there will come a time when your character advances. We call this leveling up. There are 2 ways you can gain levels, but since this is a player-focused video on your hero, we'll cover that next time. Instead, let's look at what happens when your character actually levels up. Your maximum health increases by the roll of your hit die. So if your hit die is 1d8, you roll 1d8 and add that to the max. A little side note, if your hit die increases at any point, you increase your maximum health by your level. If you're a spellcaster and you have a mana pool, you will likely see this increase every level as well. This is displayed in your class table. At every even level, you will get a new or upgraded class feature, and you can increase a stat by 1 point to a maximum of 7. At every odd level, it will grant you the ability to take a new perk that you meet the prerequisite for. In Vagabond, there is no maximum level. Although your class features only go to 10, you may continue to gain health and perks beyond that, with some of your class features actually scaling by your level anyways. However, there will come a point that your hero has likely become so powerful that it's difficult to even find a challenge anymore. And unless you're getting into some sort of isekai anime level bullshittery, you've probably already been playing that same hero for quite a while by that point. So maybe it's time to retire it or even start a new campaign. And there we have it, character creation for the Vagabond system. Subscribe to the channel as I hope to get more videos on this system released very soon, as well as coverage on a bunch of other systems as well. Also, if you like movies like Alien or Event Horizon, and you may like my game Void Home, which is currently in active development. It has a filled out setting full of places, people, organizations, and horrifying things to encounter. The main system is based on a heavily modified version of the Cypher system by Monica Games, although I've reworked more than a few of the mechanics to streamline a few things, and I've added some elements that I thought may be needed in the genre, like a new injury system, a clarified narrative tool set called Sway, and mechanics for Dread, which builds up over time until the unthinkable horror finally gets to you. You can also find more information on my Ko-fi page, link in the description below. Also, don't forget to check out my drive-thru RPG. I recently released Applied Democracy, a free 30-page book for running a game similar in theme to how Helldivers 2 plays out. And if you like what I do, since I've been turning monetization off on my channel videos more and more lately, feel free to drop a couple of bucks for this Canuck for some brewskis on my Ko-fi page. No pressure though, make sure you're well stocked on brewskis of your own first, eh? And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and have a good one, eh?